Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Soul Symphony. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Z. I hope the information you find here helps you if you're on your healing journey. If you're not on a healing journey, that's okay too. And whenever you decide to be on your healing journey, the information will be here for you, and then you can just come and use it whenever you need it. So, this channel is mostly about healing. And the information that I use is information I have gained through my own experiences, through several abusive relationships, through my lifetime, through my life, and then also some of my medical knowledge because I have a medical background. So, medical background as a provider. So, I'm using that to help other people who might have been through similar situations, hoping the information helps. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. Just pass it along to whoever might need it. So today I'll go over self-sabotaging behavior. Self-sabotaging behavior is a combination of things. It can be single things or it can be a combination of things. And those things can be just thoughts, really. Thoughts, habits, behaviors that actively interfere on our daily lives. They stop us from actually achieving what we're supposed to achieve because of deep-rooted fear of failure to achieve things, for success, failure to show certain insecurities. It's mostly really failure in general. Now, as human beings, we all have a slight fear of failure when it comes to certain things. But once that fear of failure gets to a point where it actually stops us from accomplishing certain things and avoiding progressing in life, avoiding progressing financially, emotionally, physically, and progressing in life in general, especially certain aspects of life, such as romantic relationships, finances, jobs, and taking certain opportunities that we have to get out of our comfort zone to actually get there. If we get to that point where we have that fear and all those aspects of our lives are actually impacted in a negative way, then we tend to sabotage ourselves. We tend to create reasons. That's when the self-sabotaging behavior is actually detrimental too, because it makes us not grow. The whole point in life, again, is to be the highest version of ourselves, right? In order for us to be useful to ourselves and to be useful to other people in a positive manner, to make changes, to help any and everybody, ourselves included, we have to be able to reach our higher self. Our higher self means we have to work toward that first. We have to find what different aspects of our lives need to have those improvements, those aspects of our lives that need to actually be worked upon in order for us to get to that place where we can be really good to ourselves and then good to other people. When I say good, not just a good morning or good night, good more like in the sense that we can actually have an impact, a really positive impact on our lives, on other people's lives, right? So in order for us to get to that point, we have to know, first of all, we should not sabotage ourselves when certain opportunities present themselves. That's one of the biggest things. And in order for us not to sabotage ourselves, we have to be aware that we're even sabotaging ourselves. We have to be aware of the cause of why are we not taking certain opportunities in life? Why are we passing them and without having really real reasons? Why are we saying, oh no, especially when it comes to relationships, right? Oh, that person is out of my league. That person is not somebody that I can actually be with. Or that person is just too different than me. And that person is just so much from, I don't know, another culture or another religion or another whatever else. So we are mostly trying to find reasons. And reasons, I would not even say reasons, I would say excuses, right? Because reasons have a reason to be, technically. Excuses don't. Excuses are there to actually stop us from actually proceeding to what we're supposed to proceed to. And in order for us to give ourselves a valid reason or a validity to how we think, we create excuses, right? So that's basically that. So excuses are one of some of the biggest reasons we actually self-sabotage. And why do we create excuses? Because we are fearing. We have the fear of failure. We have the fear of success. Now, even though fear of success might sound very counterintuitive to say fear of success, those two do not belong in the same actually expression, right? Those two do not belong next to each other. But unfortunately, it actually does exist. We have a tendency sometimes to fear even success. Not only fearing success, but we fear not only fearing success because of how much sometimes we have to work to get to it, but fearing success because of the pressure that also comes with it. Because once we get to a certain point in being successful, we have to maintain that success. And sometimes the pressure that comes with maintaining that success can create a fear. It can create not only fear, but it can create also debilitating feelings that might push us to not want to go through that, or to go through toward it and not want to stay in it, right? So therefore, we don't even try to succeed to success. We don't even try to walk to that road of success. We try to stay in our comfortable, small environment and not trying to achieve bigger things. We try to stay where we are because we are more comfortable. It's a comfort, it's a bubble of comfort. So we stay there and we don't try to go and achieve more. We don't try to go and do more. We don't try to want to do more. So we stay there, and again, self-sabotage, right? And when we talk about fear of success sometimes also come on the other hand, there is also imposter syndrome. And imposter syndrome is just fear of success packaged in a different way. Because when we put in certain environments require us to come out of our shell, to come out of that comfort zone, to want to show our qualifications, um, to showcase gifts, to showcase knowledge, right? And this fear of failure, this fear of success can be some of the biggest reasons that we feel inadequate for those environments. And even when we put in those environments, we have that feel that fear to not want to be exposed. It's mostly a fear of exposure of things that we actually imagining, or exposure of things that might not even actually be necessarily something that is bad. But we create these scenarios that these are some of the worst things out there that we can show about ourselves, right? Because we want to be accepted. Because insecurities are deep rooted feelings that can actually be linked to inadequacy. So we do not want to show that we are inadequate in those environments that actually propel us to success. So we feel that if those parts of us are exposed, therefore, those environments might reject us. Those environments might push us to failing, or those insecurities might push us to failing, right? So therefore, the fear of failure. And also, another way that self-sabotaging behavior can show up, especially in romantic relationships, is actually the mechanism of protecting ourselves from being hurt, emotionally hurt, especially when we have the history of previous relationships being negative, having a negative impact on us, having relationships that actually failed us in any sense possible, having to be betrayed, having to be rejected, having to be not being taken care of, having to be abused, right? Physically, emotionally, mentally, financially, right? All those kind of relationships can actually push us to not want to be vulnerable by protecting ourselves, by putting our heart in a cage and locking it, and not allowing other people to actually access certain parts of us that are very necessary in a relationship, in a romantic relationship specifically. where we have to show those parts of us in order for us to be able to eventually get to a serious stage in that relationship and eventually falling in love, right? Because ultimately we get into relationship. At least that's what I believe. Some people might not be in relationships to fall in love. Some people might be in relationships for financial reasons, or for, I don't know. Everybody have their own reasons, but I believe that that's the ultimate reason that people should get in a relationship, right? To find that person, to get to that point, and not even to get in a relationship. Is more like to get to fall in love eventually. Even though I heard it so many times nowadays that, oh, that's outdated. Nobody gets in relationships to fall in love nowadays, right? I heard that. I've seen it on social media, people saying it. But again, originally the biggest reason people actually end up getting into relationships, getting to marriage and having children, that's where I believe originally there is love there. There should be love there. It shouldn't just be about any and everything else except the reason why people should be together, right? So but things have changed over time. Things have changed. So at this point, I believe, I'm just going to keep it there, that to be vulnerable is equal to falling in love eventually, right? Eventually. Now, you cannot fall in love with someone. You cannot be honest with someone. You cannot be in a healthy relationship with someone. You cannot trust someone in a relationship, right? If there is no vulnerability. Vulnerability is the key to trusting a partner. If a husband, wife, whatever, whatever kind of, as long as it's romantic, I should say, as long as it's romantic, it is imperative, it is necessary to be vulnerable in order for that relationship to get to to unlock those older aspects of a relationship, those older aspects that are very much necessary for a healthy relationship. A relationship, for it to be healthy, there has to be trust. And in order for trust to be created, there should be vulnerability. And in order for love to eventually happen, vulnerability have to be there. So it's kind of a domino effect. If one lacks, the rest of it will not make it. So we have to be mindful of that, right? So protecting ourselves is not a bad thing, because nowadays you have all kind of people. So we do not want to expose ourselves, our deepest thoughts, our deepest feelings, our deepest self to other people that we don't trust to begin with, right? We cannot trust. If we cannot trust them, we cannot actually allow them to protect us. And since we have been in previous relationship that we did not get that protection, we're more likely to not want to be vulnerable with other people. And that's understandable, right? That's something that makes sense. But again, not being vulnerable in romantic relationships, no matter the reason, it does not matter the reason, right? That can push us to self-sabotage that relationship. So we have to just be mindful of that. Now, some of the ways actually self-sabotaging behavior can show up is procrastination. Procrastination and perfectionism. Now, technically, those two do not go hand in hand, really, right? Because if you're procrastinating, that means you're just not doing it, really. You just keep pushing things and keep pushing things and keep pushing. You're not even touching it, right? Because you keep telling yourself, well, I got 2 hours, I got 3 hours, I got 4 hours, and then you will never really get to the task. But perfectionism, right? We get to the task, but we keep going back and forth trying to make it perfect. We keep going back and forth trying to change things, trying to make it perfect, trying to make it reach a high standard that is not obtainable. The highest standard that we create in our own mind, thinking that that specific task or that specific project or that specific errand or that specific whatever that is, right? That it will get to that high standard that we have put put to that specific put on that task, telling ourselves that that task has to achieve that specific high standard. We put this high ceiling that might never be obtainable. So we have to be mindful of that. That perfectionism is not realistic. It absolutely not. And because I'm saying that from personal experiences where, again, certain things I'll have to do it 10 times and still be like, no, I can still change this little thing right here. It's like cleaning up, literally like cleaning up something as simple as a mirror. I'll spray on it and then I'll start wiping and I'll wipe it, finish wiping everything, and I'll say, no. There's still that little spot right there. I need to get to that. That little spot right there. I need to get it. And then I'll finish it and I'll see another spot. and before I know, I spent 30 minutes cleaning up the window or the mirror, right? But the point is that if you think about it, if I think about it now, think about it, look back. Now, I don't do that no more, right? But if I look back, again, during my healing journey, I have realized certain things are not the way I'm supposed to be doing it. Because I learned that that's a lot of time that I'm wasting doing that one little thing when I have 20 things I could have done, right? So again, it's the awareness side of things. So by me spending 30 minutes cleaning up the mirror, right? That's me sabotaging myself from taking time for myself to eat, from taking time for myself to doing all the things that are more productive than just cleaning up the mirror. And so that's just something. Now, some people might say, well, that's OCD. No. That's not OCD, actually. That's literally perfectionism because I needed it to be perfect. No spots, no nothing. It has to be perfect in my eyes. No, because no matter what I do, no matter how much I clean that window, there will always be something. If it's not a little piece of the cloth that I clean it with, it will be probably a little bit of the spray somewhere on the side, somewhere there in the cracks. No matter, and I could not get in the cracks. So what's the point of doing all that, right? So as long as it's clean, that's what matters. Now, having to say every small piece of that mirror has to look perfectly the way I want it to look, that was very unrealistic. And now again, looking back, I can tell myself that was unrealistic, lady. So again, when we learn, we do better, right? But the whole point is to learn. The whole point is to learn. Now, 30 minutes cleaning up a mirror, that's literally 20 minutes or 15 minutes that I could have taken out of that, or even 25 minutes, because it shouldn't take me 30 minutes nowadays. It doesn't take me 30 minutes nowadays to do that. But again, back then it did. When I was in my perfectionism era, right, where everything had to be perfect, right? And I always used to say, actually, I wish I had 30 hours per day. I used to say that. Why is that? Because most of my time was actually put into doing certain tasks, stretching the amount of time they needed. Instead of just doing them in 2-3 minutes, I would do them in 20 minutes, right? Because of that unrealistic standard that I used to put for myself. Nobody put it on me. I put it on myself to want to achieve it in a certain way, to want to see the result in a certain way, to want to spend as much time as necessary to get to that high standard. But again, that's something that is some of the reasons we end up not being productive much, because we all have the same 24 hours in a day. Now, the way we choose to use our 24 hours per day is up to us. Some people always say, how did you achieve all this in 24 hours and you still have 7-8 hours sleep? Because again, when you know better, you do better. I use my time nowadays way better because I did not know better. I know better now. I put my task in compartments. I tell myself, 1 hour this, 1 hour that, 1 hour that. If I'm not done, I'm moving on to the next one. I'll come back to it later if I have time. But I will try my very best still to finish it within that 1 hour, whatever task it is. Because again, I know better now. But again, the awareness to even know that I was doing it, and that was actually ways that my childhood wounds were manifesting. That's another thing that I didn't even know. I just thought that that's the way to do it. I have control over this. I can control it. I can control the outcome. I can control how long I put in it to get the outcome I wanted. I can control things. So therefore, I'm going to get the result I want, right? But then at the end of the day, that is not the way to go, because again, I had to find out the hard way. And I have so many other examples that I could have given, but that's the simplest one, quickest one, I guess. So when it comes to relationships, we don't only sabotage ourselves in our daily lives. Self-sabotaging doesn't just appear in daily lives as just tasks, right? It also impacts our own personal relationships with partners, where we push people away. We try to pick fights because we set the same high standards we set when it comes to perfectionism to ourselves. We set the same high standards to these other people that are supposed to share their lives with us. We're supposed to share our lives with them. So we put those high standards with them. We put the same high standards with our children and telling them how to do things, how not to do things, how these high standards have to be achieved. And we end up, unfortunately, not only being perfectionists, we also raise perfectionist children who do not know nothing else but having to set high standards for themselves, and not in a healthy way. There's nothing wrong with having high standards. Now, high standards that are pretty much inachievable, unobtainable, right? That is what is unhealthy. There's nothing wrong with setting up high standards. It's mostly knowing, are they realistic? Knowing, do they fit in my daily life? Knowing, are those high standards actually productive? Because not all high standards are productive. Not all high standards are worth our time. Not all high standards are really even worth our energy to begin with, right? So we have to be mindful of that. Now, and then the other side of things, not only that we create arguments with people and we avoid to be vulnerable with people, we have also this tendency that we can avoid things, avoid tasks, avoid spending time with people, avoid talking to them about certain things, right? We can end up, unfortunately, avoiding to process certain things because of that same habit of not wanting to really put so much into the failure, into not so much into thinking about failing, not so much into not only success, but more like the failing. The avoidance is mostly linked to failure, the fear of failure. So therefore we avoid, we turn into distractions. We turn to distractions to try to take us away from actually feeling that possibility of failing, that possibility of failing and the fear of failing, especially when it comes to things, when it comes to tasks, when it comes to opportunities, when it comes to something that we might think that we are not capable of. We are not equipped enough. We have insecurities. If we have insecurities toward that specific thing, it can be anything. It can be a relationship. It can be a job. It can be anything. It can be finances. It can be anything, really. It can be our body image, right? So we tend to avoid it. When I say a body image, a simple thing as, for example, when we go buy clothes, right? I've seen so many people over the years, right? Friends that will go shopping, and I will say, "Well, I like this." They'll be like, "Oh, you think you can rock that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I don't care about who got to say what. I'm just gonna wear it. If I like it, I like it. It doesn't matter, right? If you have something to say, man, that's on you. But at the end of the day, I like it. I like it. I'm just gonna wear it. So be it." If people don't like it, so be it. That's their problem, right? But those friends, one or two friends that I would go shopping with, they'd be like, "Oh no, I can never wear that," and I'll be like, "Why not?" "Oh no, my body, that's not my body type. My body type cannot. This will not work with my body type." And I'm like, "Do you like it though?" "Yeah, I like it, but I would not wear that because it's not. It will not look good on me. It would not good look to whom though? To you or to other people?" So we have to be mindful of that. We should not just do things because other people might feel a certain way about it. Because no matter what we do, people will say something. If you wear a shirt, people will say, "Oh, look at that shirt." If you don't wear a shirt, they will say, "Look, why you're not wearing a shirt?" So it does not matter. It does not matter. If you do something, they will say something. If you don't do something, they will say something. So let them talk. At the end of the day, just do you. That's all it is. Just do you. So, so the avoidance and the denial, when it comes to self-sabotaging, again, is something we turn to distractions. Those distractions can be scrolling. It can be excess working. It can be substance abuse. It can be just any and everything else that we can access to take our time from the fear of failing something. So we take our time and put it into something else that is not deserving of our time because we do not want to come back to this specific task or this specific knowledge or this specific person that we do not want to be vulnerable with, and we avoid. And that's, again, if we think about it, the attachment style, the avoidant attachment style is similar. People who have avoidant attachment style, they avoid. And why do they avoid? They do not want to be vulnerable. They do not want to have to show their feelings. They do not have to explain their feelings. They do not have to try to process their feelings in a relationship, or they do not have to understand all these feelings that are rushing in through them, through this relationship. So therefore, they run. Instead of processing, they run. So it's the same thing. When there is similar things, when there is some tasks or relationships in this case, right, that we do not want to be vulnerable. We do not, those tasks, we do not want to address them because we are having the fear of failing those tasks. We're more likely to turn to distractions. Those distractions can be anything, right? It can be anything. Can be anything really. So how to break the cycle? Breaking the cycle, again, is first of all identifying it, because you cannot break something you don't even know exists. That's just the biggest reality of things, right? We have to be aware. Awareness is the number one in any healing process. It does not matter what topic it is, what stage we're in. It does not matter how long we sustain that trauma. It does not matter. The biggest, number one, I'm going to say it again. Number one thing is awareness. Once we are aware, at least we know there's something we need to address. Now, we can never address something we do not even know exists. That's just the biggest thing. The biggest realization for us is before even we heal something, before even we heal a wound, we heal trauma we went through, we have to be aware that we are even hurting because of a trauma. We not only we are hurting, we have to be able to pinpoint what kind of hurt it is, when did it start, who actually put us through it, who was a perpetrator, who, when, how, and then we have to start processing it in order, because most people who go through trauma, we have the tendency when we go through trauma to suppress it. That's the number one thing we do, is suppressing it, because it's a survival mechanism for us to be able to actually even keep going on a day-to-day basis, especially when you stay in a household or in an environment where the trauma was chronic and continuously you were sustaining, or we were sustaining that trauma continuously over months, years and years, decades and decades, right? That environment, in order for us to even survive and not mentally break down and not have a psychosis and anything else under the radar, right? That mentally can go wrong. We have to be able to suppress it. But that's not something we decide to do. That's our body, our mind. It's a survival mechanism. That's the first thing our body and mind does is, oh, let's shut that part down. Let's not even remember that it happened. And that's why many people who go through childhood trauma, severe childhood trauma, they do not even remember their childhood. If they do, it's in chunks. It's in chunks. And sometimes, in my case for sure, we do not remember that we even went through certain things until we start our healing process. Because our healing process forces us to go within. It forces us to go within, not only to go within once we're aware that those issues started in childhood, right? It forces us to go within and retrospect. Retrospect means going backward, right? Retrospectively analyze. And by analyzing, those memories resurface. They'll come back eventually, slowly but surely, but they'll come back. In my case, for sure, certain memories when I started my healing journey, I was very functional, very well functional. I was not the type to just cry for any and everything. I was not, because again, that's again my body's way to keep me sane. My body's way to not allow me to be vulnerable enough. For years, that part of me was shut down. Like, I even thought about it, like, I would be empathetic. I would sympathize. But again, there was this barrier for me to be able to, oh, they're crying, let me cry. Or it's not let me cry, it's more like naturally crying or naturally tearing, or naturally that was not there. Because again, my body, my mind had to find a way to keep me sane, find a way to make sure that I'm okay until I get to a point where I heal. And that's again from personal experience, right? So that's the biggest thing, awareness, making sure that we are aware. In order for us to heal anything, we have to know it's even there to begin with. In order for you to put a Band-Aid on a wound, even if it's like a physical wound that we have on a hand, on a finger, on a toe, on our leg, right? In order for us to know, hey, in order for us to take care of that wound, to clean it, to put a Band-Aid on it, right? To allow it, to give it the proper chance to actually heal, to heal quicker than it should have on its own. In order for us to even do that, we have to see the wound. We have to be able to know where the wound is. We have to know where the wound is located. Is it on my foot? Is it on my thigh? Is it on my leg? Is it on my arm? Right? So we have to know the location of that wound. We have to be able to also know, oh, this morning, it happened this morning. Right? In order for us to be able to take care of it quick enough before it gets infected, we have to be able to know that. What happened? How did it happen? Was it a scratch? Was it the cat? Was it the dog? Was it just a paper clip? Was it something that, whatever it is. And even when we go to the ER, that's what they will ask us, right? To be able to know what treatment to put on it. If it's a cat or dog, right, they might give us, if it's a cat especially, or a dog especially, they might give us a rabies shot, depending on if that dog has its vaccine, even if it's a cat. So, if it's an animal in general, they will say, hey, rabies shot, then all the things, right? Antibiotics and all that stuff, depending on how long, when, how, where. So all that stuff is to just be able to make us understand that we have to be able to know, not only to know, but to investigate the rest of it so that we can help heal. we can help ourselves heal, right? And not only to know, but we have to also pinpoint the triggers. The triggers is the who, especially the who. Who did it, right? How? How did it happen? How did it happen? Who did it to us? Now, if we are around our triggers all the time, every time, we cannot heal. That's just the reality of things. We have to remove ourselves from places that we have sustained trauma, from people who actually put us through that trauma. Because it's like a reminder. We see them every day. Because when it comes to healing trauma, it's all about getting back to a regulated nervous system, because trauma dysregulates our nervous system. And our nervous system is a functional part of us that is 100% related to our vision, right? What we see, how we feel, what we hear, right? Our feelings are linked directly to what we see, and are linked directly about also with what we hear. If those same people who hurt us, who make us sustain, who abused us, are still around us, still talking, still saying things, negative things, provoking us, triggering us, if we're still around them, all we have is the same wounds that they created previously. All they're doing is stirring those same wounds. The same wounds, because our nervous system has associated those people with hurt. So seeing them, even if they don't do nothing after the trauma, by the way, even if they don't do nothing after that, just seeing them regularly, it's a reminder. It's an association. Our nervous system associate things. They associate what our experience is with our exterior world. Everything that we see from outside, our nervous system has an association to it. When we see it, our nervous system can interpret it as good or bad, as harmful, hurtful, as good, as joyful, whatever it is. And if that person who actually abused us is still around us, our nervous system cannot go back to a regulated state, because it's always being poked. It's always being triggered. It's always being triggered, poked, always, by seeing that person over and over and over and over again. It's like almost reliving that trauma, even though the trauma has already, it was done with, right? Technically, it's not happening anymore. Especially if it's I would say physical, certain type of physical trauma, right? Especially that if we see certain type of physical abuse, if we sustain a certain type of physical abuse, if the abuser is still around us, it's something that it's triggering. So we need to know our triggers. Notice those triggers. Understanding that those same triggers can actually make us self-sabotage, because by staying in environments where we get triggered over and over and over, we self-sabotaging ourselves from healing. We are stopping ourselves from healing. We're stopping ourselves from progressing to the next level. The next level, which is eventually having a regulated nervous system, right? But we cannot get our nervous system regulated if we are always in the same environment that created a dysregulated nervous system to begin with. So we have to be mindful of that. Self-sabotaging behavior can show up in many, many different ways. And that's, again, another way. And that's why when I started my very first video, or my second video, I did talk about, if you are starting your healing journey, one of the most important things is to remove yourself from the environment where you sustain the trauma. Remove yourself from the environment. Remove yourself from the people. Because we cannot heal where we were hurt. That's just 100% accuracy of this, unfortunately. I would not say accuracy, but again, it's accurate for me, because I have, from my own experiences, years and years and years, I was in the same environment. And then Nothing was happening. I was trying to heal. Nothing was happening. As soon as I removed myself, within 2, 3 months, my all the physical manifestations, all the physiological actually manifestations, because I was sick physiologically. It was not just my nervous system that was dysregulated. My physiology was dysregulated too. It was not just my nervous system. So, and then once I removed myself, within a couple months, I was feeling so much better, so much better. So, and the next thing also to do is to make sure that we challenge our core beliefs. Our core beliefs, that is also when it comes to procrastination. Procrastination is not necessarily something that it's not something that we should identify ourselves with, because I heard some people saying, oh, I just cannot do things in time to save my life. We should not identify ourselves with that. It's not something that, or we will say, oh, I'm just lazy. It's just laziness. It's not actually laziness. It's our brain's way to protect itself from feeling the fear of failure. It's our brain's way of doing that. So it's a coping mechanism. It's a coping mechanism, unfortunately. So once we understand that, it's the way to make sure that once we're mindful of that, we need to be able to catch ourselves doing it and tell ourselves, oh, that's what I'm doing. So let me go ahead and reframe this. So reframing our mindset, mainly reframing our mindset, making sure that we align with our way of doing things. We realign, because once we procrastinate so much, we come off alignment. We are not in alignment anymore, really, with our original values. And the original values, usually when it comes to success, nothing that comes from trauma is really aligned with original values, right? Nothing really is, because original values are supposed to uplift us. They're supposed to bring us into more fulfilling spaces, more fulfilling body, and more fulfilling life, right? But then when we are misaligned, we tend to do things that are not necessarily good for us, that are not necessarily there to uplift us or to take us to places that we want to see ourselves, or to mindset, or to the mind space we want to see ourselves. Because not only procrastination is a mind thing, but it's also a space thing, because it doesn't only start in our mind, our telling ourselves, "Oh, I'll do it in 2 hours or in 3 hours. I'll get to it. I'll get to it." But eventually, it manifests outwardly. It manifests on our daily lives. It manifests in our results, our jobs, our finances, our relationships, right? Especially relationship with children. If we have children and our children are always telling us, "Mom, I remember telling you to do ABCD. You say you'll do it in 3 hours. You forgot. The deadline has passed." Or mom or dad, So it teaches the child not to trust us. It teaches the child not to rely on us. It teaches the child that they cannot really come to us for certain things. And sometimes that can deteriorate relationship, parent-child relationship. So we have to be mindful of that it's not only something that affects us. It can affect also our children, our relationship, our job, and other people too, especially if we collaborating with other people. And we have a project, they're always relying on us. We're the last people, we're the last ones to turn in our part, or the last person to turn in anything. So therefore, it slows down the team's productivity. So we have to be mindful of stuff like that, right? And the biggest thing when it comes to that, in order for us to have our values realign again and get back to where we want it to be, we have to focus on small progress, slowly progressing, slowly being mindful of what we're doing, and slowly changing our mindset, putting things in place. We should not always thrive to have immediate results, because the immediate result is not the key. It's more like progressive results, sustainable progressive result. We're doing it slowly at a time, and we will get there to those results, and we'll maintain the result. Because procrastination is not necessarily that we're not really going to get to it at all. We're going to get to it, but is it going to be sustainable to always do that for everything? Because certain things will suffer if we have to always do everything last minute, right? Many things will suffer. So being able to say, hey, I have a task, let me break it down in different sections. I'm going to do this section in 1 hour. I'm going to do the next one in 2 hours. I'm going to do the next one in 3 hours. And making sure that we maintain it. Making sure that we maintain it. Having a calendar. Making sure that we maintain our calendar. Making sure that we keep a routine. Making sure that we discipline keeping that routine. It's mostly that. It's not even about not seeing it, or it's mostly about when we see it, what are we doing about it, right? Because it's comes back to the same thing. If we're aware of it and we don't do nothing about it, it comes to the same thing as not being aware of it at all. Because the whole point of being aware of it is to be able to address it. So let's be very much mindful of that. Being aware that we are self-sabotaging ourselves is not only key, but addressing it, acting on it, doing different actionable things that can actually get us to not self-sabotage eventually, especially certain great life opportunities, because certain opportunities are once in a lifetime. Once they're here, they're here. Once they're gone, they're gone. So let's just be mindful of that. All right, so again, I'll go ahead and stop here. And in every video, I will say it, all right? Please, please, please take care of yourself. No matter what you do, no matter who is around you, no matter where you are, make sure you make time for yourself. Make sure you take care of yourself. You're only as good to other people as good as you are to yourself. You're not good to nobody if you're not good to yourself. So you got to make sure you take care of yourself, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually too. Okay. And when we talk about spiritually, that's when we talk about the mindfulness, making sure that we align our body, mind, right? Body and mind, to make sure that we are doing what we're supposed to do on a daily basis, which is our yoga, our meditation, if you like meditation, making sure that we do our walks, our runs, if you like the gym, eating healthy, sleeping enough, whatever really works for you, right? Making sure that we are asking ourselves on a daily basis, how am I doing today? How am I doing today? Being balanced, having a work-life balance, not working so much that we don't have even enough time to take care of ourselves, and not also just doing nothing but taking care of ourselves and not having enough time to do nothing else for, our life, our friends, family, children. So making sure that we are balancing it, balanced life. Okay. And that's another thing. Once we have a balanced life, we're less likely to procrastinate, because we find different ways of doing things that actually works. Even if we don't do everything, we allow ourselves to do as much as our body is allowing us, as much as our mind is allowing us for that specific time frame we are giving ourselves. So therefore, we still accomplishing something. We still taking care of things, ourselves, our family, our daily lives, right? But just not overwhelming ourselves in the process. But when we procrastinate, usually is more like we don't really accomplish much at all. We just keep pushing and say, oh, I will get to it. I will get to it. I will get to it. But then we never get to it, right? Again, so that's one of the biggest things. Making sure that we are mindful to be balanced. Our mental and physical can only be balanced if our external is balanced. What we have outside reflect directly what we have inside. What we have inside directly reflect also outwardly. So we have to be mindful of those two things go hand in hand. We cannot stay in a messy place, with clothes everywhere, with shoes everywhere, dirty dishes, with flies everywhere, and thinking that we can just sit there and meditate in front of all the mess, right? Or be there thinking that we're good and our mind is calm and clear and collected. No. So, and it's the same thing. The other way, it goes on the other way also, and that's not balanced. So also, the other way around also is valid. We cannot have our mind to be balanced, our body to be balanced, to and or it's the other way around for sure. That we cannot have our environment all squeaky clean, all nice and neat, candles burning, everything smells good, right? And then we're anxious, we have palpitations, we cannot stay still, we are very much agitated, right? So that's still an imbalance. So we have to be able to see that those two don't go hand in hand. In order for our inside to actually be calm, collected, and balanced, our outside has to reflect it. And vice versa. Our outside reflects what we should reflect, I should say, what's inside, right? If our outside is very nice, good, and neat, our home, our children, everybody's good, then our inside should also be good. So those two kind of go hand in hand. And by taking care of one most of the time, the other one if we take care of our outside world, usually the inside world will eventually catch up, right? That's why in trauma, after going through trauma, if you stay in a still traumatic environment, it doesn't matter how much you try to balance your inner world, the outside world is still trauma. It's still traumatic. If everybody's there yelling, everybody around you is still in that same nonsense, right? Doing whatever else traumatized us to begin with. So therefore, there's no balance there. But once we remove ourselves, we can provide ourselves a calm environment to heal. And that same environment will also eventually allow our inner world to catch up to that calmness, to that sane, peaceful environment. So there's a reflection here, right? So we have to be mindful of that. Okay. So until next video, please take care of yourself. Okay. All right. Bye-bye.